Good day, everyone. My name is Rohit Pillai, and today we are going to have a look at the life and works and teachings of one of the great eminent yoga masters of the modern time, T. Krishnamacharya or Tirumalai Krishnamacharya. So, next slide, please. So let us first get a bit into the background of Tirumalai Krishnamacharya because it is important to understand his background in order to understand his teachings also. So Tirumalai Krishnamacharya was born on 18th November 1888 in an Iyengar family. An Iyengar family means it is essentially a Vaishnava family. He was the great grandson of Srinivasa Brahmatantra Prakala Mahadesikan. So he was the Srinivasa Brahmatantra Prakala Mahadesikan was actually the presiding acharya of the Prakala Mutt. Now, for those who don't know what Prakala Mutt is, just like Shaivas have Shankaracharya and the four Pithas in four corners of India, so too Vaishnavas have their Matha, which is known as Prakala Mutt. And his grandfather was the head of that, sort of like Shankaracharya of Prakala Mutt, but in the Vaishnava tradition. Uh, Coincidentally, he was also brother-in-law to B.K.S. Iyengar, as he was married to Namagiri Amma, the elder sister of B.K.S. Iyengar. He was the founder of Viniyoga style of yoga. We'll come to what Viniyoga essentially is in the upcoming slides. And he took Samadhi on February 28, 1989. So he lived almost slightly over the age of 100. Next slide, please. So now buckle up here because we are going to look at his educational background, which is like quite an extensive one. To be precise, Krishnamacharya during his time had an equivalent degree of, a degree that was equivalent to 3 PhDs. He learned yoga under Babu Bhagwan Das in Banaras. Okay. Later on, he also passed his Samkhya and Yoga examination from Patna University. Later on, he traveled to Tibet on foot. And there, in a cave, he met a yogi called Rama Mohana Brahmachari. Rama Mohan Brahmachari was living in that cave with his wife and 3 kids. And he stayed with Rama Mohan Brahmachari for approximately 7 years. Within this period of 7 years, he learned quite a few kriyas, under Ram Mohan Brahmachari, and he took up the extensive study of this text called Yoga Korunta. Okay, and this text called Yoga Korunta becomes the basis of many of the yoga styles which we see today, whether it is Iyengar style of yoga, whether it is Vinyasa style of yoga, or whether it is the Vini Yoga style itself. In the year 1933, he was appointed at Jagan Mohan Palace as a yoga teacher to the royal family as well as the commoners. Now, you see, the royal family are more of martial people oriented to martial arts. So what happens is they do not have the many a times they do not have the personality structure tailored to holding the asanas or meditation or extensive pranayamas for doing these kind of traditional Hatha Yoga style practices. So in order to keep them interested, what T. Krishnamacharya essentially did was he created what is known as the Vinyasa style yoga. Now please do not get confused between Vinyasa and Vini Yoga. Both are two different styles. Okay, so T. Krishnamacharya created this Vinyasa style yoga. Vinyasa essentially means flow. Flow means moving from one posture to another in a smooth manner. The postures are arranged in such a sequential way that you effortlessly move from one pose to another. Imagine Surya Namaskar. It's not exactly like Surya Namaskar, but something like that. Each pose is followed by another pose in a flow manner. In the year 1934, he published Yoga Makaranda. Of course, he published various other works, but Yoga Makaranda happens to be one of his prominent works till date because that is where the essence of his teachings lie. And you can also refer to other books written by him. Next, please. Okay. Now, let us understand what the yogic teachings of Krishnamacharya were based on, how he compartmentalized them, and how he taught them to his students. Now, Krishnamacharya said that a sadhak could be of five. A sadhak could be of the sadhaks could be of five types. There could be five kinds of sadhakas. Okay, and each approaches yoga for different purpose. Okay, he divided the purpose into five categories: shikshanakram, rakshanakram, chikitsakram, adhyatmakram, and shaktikram. Now let us look one by one at what each of these kramas or each of these practices are. Shikshanakram. So Shikshanakram is essentially the kind of sadhana you must undertake if you want to become a teacher or pursue the path of enlightenment. Okay. Now, if you are one who is on the Shikshanakram, you have to essentially on a daily basis, undergo a rigorous sadhana of one prayer at least. One prayer essentially means a period of 3 to 3.5 hours till your deathbed, basically. You know, you have to daily undergo a 3.5 hours sadhana. Now, what would your syllabus consist of? Well, in order to undergo Shikshanakram, Krishnamacharya devised a syllabus which had 6 levels to them. Okay, we call these 6 levels as primary series, intermediate series, advanced A, B, C, and D. Each of the series now have a minimum of a combination of 60 to 65 asanas and pranayamas. For example, the primary series will have a combination of 60 asanas and pranayamas. The intermediate series again will have a combination of 65 to 70 asanas and pranayamas. And like that, they go on increasing in hierarchy. So the Shikshanakram essentially tries to make you an all-rounder of all the below kramas. Rakshanakram. Now, Rakshanakram is for those individuals whose essentially main purpose of coming to yoga is just for maintenance of health. Usually working people and married people who want to maintain their health in order to bear the strains of their working life and married life. For such a person, it is said that a period of a daily practice of 1.5 to 2 hours is enough for such an individual. Rakshana Krama. Okay. Chikitsakram. Now, Chikitsakram is essentially the practice that is given to a patient that comes to you for therapy. Now, what practice will you give such a person? It varies from person to person, depending on the ailment that he has. We'll be covering that extensively when we come to Vini Yoga again. But it could include mantra sadhana, it could include pranayam, it could include asanas, it could include n number of practices. But having said that, in the Krishnamacharya Yoga Paddhati, the primary series which I mentioned of earlier, okay, essentially the primary series, which happens to be the first series in a series of 6 levels, the primary series also, it is said that if you master the primary series, it constitutes a complete Chikitsakram. That is, if a patient comes to you, and if by any means you are capable of making him do the complete primary series, you can ensure that the patient has healed himself completely. Okay. Adhyatma Krama. Now, Adhyatma Krama means for spiritual development. Now, here you might have a doubt that in Shikshana Krama, I mentioned that Shikshana Krama is for person who wants to become enlightened. If you see the PPT, I have mentioned enlightened, you know, so why Adhyatma Krama separately? Well, Shikshana Krama is for person who wants to be enlightened and who wants to be a teacher. Okay. You cannot be an unenlightened teacher. So Adhyatma Krama is specifically for a person, maybe this person does not have teaching goals, but definitely this person does have spiritual aspirations. Well, don't we all? Okay. So Adhyatma Krama is a kind of practice to be given to the person who has specific spiritual aspirations. Shakti Krama. Shakti Krama is essentially the krama that you practice, or the practice that you do for attaining siddhis. If you guys don't know, in India, Krishnamacharya is one of the very few persons, I think only 3 persons have done it before him, to have voluntarily stopped his heartbeat. The other two, the best of, I'm sure many others might have done it, but to the best of my knowledge, the other 2 were Ramana Maharshi and Swami Rama. The third person was Krishnamacharya, who actually demonstrated in front of a scientific panel by stopping the process of stopping his heartbeat. Now, this particular process of attaining siddhis is known as Shakti Krama. Okay, so Shikshanakram, Shikshanakram for those who want to become teachers, Rakshanakram for those who want to maintain their body, Chikitsakram is for those people who want to heal themselves of an ailment, Adhyatmakram is for somebody who has spiritual aspirations, and Shaktikram is somebody who is looking to attain siddhis or certain capabilities beyond normal human faculties. Okay, next. Okay, now let us understand the let's say you are studying Shikshanakram, okay, and you are training yourself to become a teacher, and you take up the study of primary series, which, like I mentioned, is a study of 65 set of asanas combined with a few pranayamas. Okay, how do you practice that? Well, whenever you are practicing any asana, okay, whenever you enter the practice, because if you observe, one of the first limbs of Hatha Yoga is asana, then comes pranayam, then comes Bandha Mudras, and then finally comes Nadanusandhan. So Krishnamacharyas is sort of like a Hatha Yogic tradition. So let's say you start with the practice of an asana. What all are the elements that you should take care of? Okay, the elements that you should take care of are 4 in number. First is Samatvam and Vinyas. We'll come to that. Drishti. Third is Bandha Mudra. And fourth is Pranayam. Now, let's go by it one by one. Samatvam and Vinyas. What does it mean? Samatvam means alignment. Whenever you take up any posture or whenever you take up any asana, it cannot be misaligned. You cannot be doing it anyhow just for the sake of doing it. There needs to be some kind of alignment. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. What does Vinyas mean? Vinyas means there should be a coordination between your breathing, okay, the breathing that you are doing, and the movement, that is the stretching process that you are doing in the asana. Okay, there should be alignment and coordination between the stretching that you are doing in the asana with the breathing. Okay, so this is the first element, Samatvam, Vinyas. Both go together. It can also be called Vinyas Samatvam. Okay. The second element is Drishti. What does Drishti mean? Drishti is essentially a part of, Drishti means while you are doing certain asanas, your eye movements need to be very precise. Okay. In Hatha Ratnavali, we have a concept known as Sanketa. Sanketa means certain kinds of meditation doing which the mind dissolves itself into the consciousness. Okay, this is called Sanketa. Now, what are the means of Sanketa? Well, one of the first means of Sanketa is you focus your eyes on the center of the eyebrows. That is one Sanketa. The second Sanketa is you focus your eyes on the center of on the tip of your nose. The third Sanketa is that you focus your attention on the navel. The fourth Sanketa is you focus your attention on the back of the head. Like this way, there are 1.5 crore Sanketas actually. So Drishti here means your eyesight, but there are other types of Drishtis also. Drishti, it's a very general term. Okay, so sometimes you are focusing on the navel, sometimes you are focusing on the back of the head. Of course, you can't do it with the eye, but you are still focusing. Okay, but mainly the Sanketas used are the Sanketas that you do with eye. For example, Bhrumadhya Drishti, Nasagra Drishti, or let's say you are doing Adho Mukshwanasana, you will be looking at your navel. Okay, Nabhi Drishti. The second, and this is while you are doing the asana itself, okay, not separate, you are not sitting separately and doing it. You are doing this while you are doing the asana itself. The third element is Bandha, okay, Bandha Mudra, we call it. So for example, while doing certain asanas, okay, either the bandhas, which are 3 in number, okay, Mula Bandh, Udyan Bandh, Jalandhar Bandh, okay, you do this bandhas, mainly Mula Bandh and Udyan Bandh, you do this bandhas consciously or the bandhas happen automatically, okay. For example, what do we mean by automatic bandha? When you are doing something like Sarvangasana, Jalandhar Bandha happens automatically. Okay, that is one. When you are doing a practice like Shirshasana, in order to stabilize your posture more and more, you consciously apply Mula Bandh and Uddiyana Bandh, which enables you to stabilize the posture. Okay. Likewise, in all the asanas, there is some or the other bandha which is happening consciously, or even if you don't. The more your practices goes deeper, you will find that many of the bandhas are happening unconsciously. Automatically, they happen. The more your practice deepens. And the fourth element is pranayam. Now, when we speak of pranayam, there are multiple facets to this, but essentially, whenever you hold a posture, in the Krishnamacharya school of yoga, you are mainly doing a pranayam which is similar to Ujjayi. Okay, let's say you are doing Padahastasana, staying in the Padahastasana itself, you do inhalation with Ujjayi and you do exhalation with Ujjayi. Okay, and in the midst of inhalation and exhalation, there is an application of Antar and Bahya Kumbhak, depending on how advanced student are you. So all these four elements go hand in hand together while practicing doing the practice of asana. So if you see all your pranayam, bandha, mudra, and all these combined together, all these four elements combined together, what they essentially do is during the practice of the asana itself, from asana, they take you into pranayam. From pranayam, they take you into pratyahar, because bandhas take you into pratyahar. From there into dharana, from there into dhyana, and from there into the state of samadhi. Okay. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Now, here we come to a unique aspect of the yoga style propagated by T. Krishnamacharya. Now, many of you, I understand, or at least most of you, are yoga therapists. Okay, so when we say yoga therapist, it means that for the major part of your career, you're going to be dealing with people on a one-on-one basis, not on a group basis, right? You will be focused more on healing their ailments. To a great extent, the credit of this particular style of yoga goes to T. Krishnamacharya, because he created this form of yoga which is known as Vini Yoga. Okay, what does Vini Yoga mean? Vini Yoga essentially means tailoring or adjusting the practice for the individual, especially therapy patients. Okay, so if you look at the kind of era where Krishnamacharya emerged, mass yoga classes were most popular, like 50 students, 100 students, etc., etc. But as Krishnamacharya moved up in his career, he observed that a lot of therapy students are coming to him. And these therapy students cannot be put in a mass of 50 or 100 students, because such a yoga practice can be detrimental to them. And having a fixed style of yoga, okay, that this is the format, no matter what your problem, you do this kind of, you follow only this format, can actually be counterproductive for the person. So Krishnamacharya said this won't do. Whenever every individual comes, you have to see certain quality, you have to look for certain parameters in that person. What are those parameters? We'll come to that, but you have to look for certain parameters in the individual. And depending on the parameter, you have to tailor the class accordingly. Okay, there's no rule set in stone that this you have to go only this way. No. Okay, now how do you become a Vini yogi? Okay, one more thing. So Vini yoga, like I mentioned, that it was a highlight of Krishnamacharya. Well, one thing to be noted is Vini yoga was propagated by Krishnamacharya. Okay, he spread the knowledge of Vini yoga. The original concept of Vini yoga, you find it in many places, primarily too in a text called Yoga Rahasya, written by Nath Muni. Nath Muni was centuries before Krishnamacharya and kind of an ancestor of Krishnamacharya. Okay, he wrote a text called Yoga Rahasya, wherein you find this concept of Vini yoga, that is how a sadhana should be tailored depending on the sadhak. Okay, so the person is more important than the process. Nathamuni. And then you find the concept mentioned in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, wherein in the Vibhuti Pada, 6th shloka, Patanjali says, Tasya Bhumishu Viniyogaha. Okay, he speaks of this particular thing, Tasya Bhumishu Viniyogaha. So he speaks of this particular sutra in context of samyama. Okay, what he's essentially trying to say over here is Viniyoga cannot be learned. Viniyoga is quality that is acquired once a person through his sadhana, intense sadhana, becomes capable of entering into the state of samyama. Samyama is a state of when dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, antaranga yoga, start happening effortlessly to an individual. So when a person enters the stage of samyama, he develops certain siddhis. Okay, he enters the siddha stage. Okay, and when he enters the siddha stage, looking at the person who is coming in front of him, he is capable of giving treatment because there is some abilities that he has developed as a siddha, okay, which make him capable of vini yoga, okay, or tailoring the practice to the individual. That is why if you see in Tamil Nadu, the siddha culture is very prominent because who were siddhas? Siddhas were physicians. Okay, and siddhas were somebody who had done extensive sadhana, and as a byproduct of their extensive sadhana they became siddhas, and because of the inner knowledge which is known as pragya, or the capability of entering samadhi, they were also expert physicians. Okay, so when we look at yoga therapy, Krishnamacharya said, more than a yoga therapist, try to become a siddha, try to achieve that state of samyama. The quality of viniyoga will automatically emerge from you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now, now permutations, and so what does viniyoga essentially consist of? Well, it consists of permutations and combinations of asana, pranayama, bandha mudra, mantra chanting, dhyana, personal rituals, and study of text, depending on the individual. Okay, so depending on the individual, that's one of the key highlights over here. Okay, you just don't, now this doesn't mean every person has to do mantra, every person has to do bandha mudra, every person has to do dhyana, because people are of various tendencies. If somebody is an atheist and he comes to you with ailment, okay, giving him a mantra might actually, backfire, because his mind is constantly gonna be thinking, does it work, and if he's not able to absorb himself in the practice, well, that practice might very well not be useful for him. Okay, so a permutation and combination needs to be created. Okay, and what are the parameters that you need to consider when a person is coming to you according to him? Kala, that is what time of the year is it, what season it is, Desha, place, which area is he living in. If you prescribe him a diet, the diet that you are prescribing, do the things grow in his vicinity? Is he do the things grow in his vicinity? Vaya, age. Okay, no one, what's that saying, one thing fits all, one suit fits all approach to therapy. Okay, for everybody individual. Vaya, age, vritti, occupation. Okay, if the person is an extremely busy person, okay, and if you give him a practice that requires him to spend a major amount of time, he just might not be able to do it. Or if he has a lot of sitting job and you are again giving him a practice which needs him to sit for a longer duration, that could work detrimental to his current state. Shakti, capacity. Does he have the capacity to do the sadhana that I'm giving him? Okay, and marga, that is path in life. Path in life means this is a very unique thing, not a unique thing, a very good thing about Krishnamacharya, that throughout his life, people from all the other countries and different faiths came to him, whether it was a Christian, whether it was a Muslim, etc. And whenever they came to him, if he had to give them a mantra, he never said chant Krishna's name or chant Om Namo Vasudevaya. For many people who had a faith in Jesus, what he used to create a mantra including Jesus for them. Okay, he used to create a mantra including Allah for them, so that their mind gets absorbed in it. Okay, and this absorbed mind can transcend the limits of the physicality. So this was one really good thing about Krishnamacharya. Okay, so Kala, Desha, Vaya, Vritti, Shakti, and Marga. Okay, so you consider this, but understand this. This is a basic parameter, but the fundamental thing is that your sadhana should be so strong that you are capable of entering samyama and achieving a state of siddha. And when with these parameters, when the person comes in front of you, looking at all these obvious factors, something clicks within you as a result of your sadhana. Okay, next please. Okay, so yeah, so TKV Desikachar, I think, will be doing it later. Or Krupa, are we doing it now?
We can share this in the next video, if that's okay.
Okay, okay. So guys, this was the life of Krishnamacharya. TKV Desikulture is his son, okay, who actually propagated Vinyoga to a great extent. Now, one thing before we wind up, I would like to mention is Krishnamacharya, T. Krishnamacharya, has a lot of influence on the modern yoga. His student is not only TKV Desikacharya. His student is Patabi Joyce, the current Patabi Joyce, who propagated Vinyasa Yoga to a great extent. His student is B.K. Iyengar. His student is TKV Desikachar, who also happens to be son. His student is Indira Devi, who promoted yoga in the West to a great extent. Okay, and everybody has developed their own unique style of yoga. If you look at all his students, you'll find that they have developed their own unique style of yoga. Okay, but all these different streams go ahead and meet at Krishnamacharya. Okay, and KV Desikachar happens to be his son, who took whatever he learned from that yoga and developed his own unique niche and identity out of it. And we'll look at his life and works in the next video. Okay, so thank you. Hopefully this video was helpful for you all. Thank you.